In the ever-surprising world of podcasting, Joe Rogan has pulled off the ultimate coup, getting Jesus Christ himself to grace his show. Picture this: the world's most popular podcaster, known for his laid-back style and eclectic guest list, scores a divine interview. The internet, predictably, was all abuzz with anticipation. Everyone, from the casual listener to the devoted fan, was eager to see how this unprecedented episode would unfold. Joe Rogan, with his characteristic enthusiasm, welcomed his divine guest. His casual greeting, "Hey man, thanks for joining the podcast. How's it going up there in heaven?" set the tone for the conversation. Jesus, the epitome of cool and calm, responded with a chuckle. "Oh, just watching over everyone, spreading love, the usual. But I thought it would be fun to drop by and have a chat with you, Joe." The casual banter between the two was a delightful start to what would be an unforgettable episode. The conversation took an intriguing turn as they ventured into the realm of miracles. Joe, always the inquisitive host, delved into the mechanics of turning water into wine and multiplying loaves of bread. His skepticism was met with good-natured humor from Jesus, who explained that these miracles were more about a divine touch than a teachable trick. Beyond miracles, they also explored Jesus' preferences, from his penchant for fish and chips to his thoughts on modern technology. The divine guest even shared his secret to a good beard, attributing it to, you guessed it, divine grooming. As the conversation flowed, the absurdity kept pace. Joe Rogan, ever the entertainer, proposed a hypothetical UFC match between Jesus and historical figures, adding an extra layer of hilarity to an already surreal episode. Jesus' response? "Well, I'm more into turning the other cheek, but let's just say I'd have some divine moves up my sleeve." And thus, the stage was set for one of the most divine podcast episodes ever. This divine encounter between Joe Rogan and Jesus Christ marked a remarkable chapter in the annals of podcasting, leaving listeners bemused, entertained, and eagerly anticipating what other divine guests might grace the podcast in the future. As they delved into the conversation, things took an absurd turn. Joe, ever the inquisitive host, was brimming with questions about Jesus' miraculous tricks. "So, turning water into wine, how does that work? And can you teach me?" Joe asked, his voice a blend of curiosity and skepticism. Jesus, taking it all in stride, chuckled at the query. "Well, Joe, it's all about the divine touch, but I'm afraid it's not something you can learn on a podcast. It's more of a divine gift, you know." His tone was light-hearted, as if discussing an everyday task. The conversation then took a delicious twist. "What's your favorite snack?" Joe asked, leaning in with interest. "Oh, I've always had a soft spot for fish and chips," Jesus responded with a laugh. Who would have thought the divine palate savored such earthly delights? Amidst the laughter and absurdity, the two touched upon Jesus' thoughts on modern technology. "I've been keeping up with the times, Joe, but social media can get a bit overwhelming. It's a bit like the Tower of Babel all over again, isn't it?" Jesus mused, a hint of cosmic wisdom in his voice. Joe, not missing a beat, asked about the secret to a good beard. "Divine grooming, of course," Jesus replied with a wink in his voice. The laughter that followed was contagious, filling the podcast with a sense of camaraderie and joy. As the discussion ebbed and flowed between the ridiculous and the sublime, it was clear that this was no ordinary podcast episode. Joe Rogan, known for his ability to navigate diverse topics, was steering the conversation with his usual aplomb, while Jesus, the divine guest, was matching him with his wit and humor. And with that, Joe and Jesus had explored some of the most divine topics ever discussed on a podcast. The absurdity didn't stop there, as Joe proposed a hypothetical UFC match. Turning the conversation from divine tricks and snacks, Joe Rogan, a seasoned UFC commentator, couldn't help but steer the conversation towards his beloved sport. The idea was outlandish, absurd, and utterly entertaining. A hypothetical UFC match between Jesus Christ and Genghis Khan. Can you picture it? The Prince of Peace in one corner, the Mongol conqueror in the other. The octagon humming with anticipation. The crowd on the edge of their seats. Joe, with his voice full of excitement, introducing the divine versus the historical, the peaceful versus the warrior. But what was even more entertaining was Jesus' response. Ever the cool and collected deity, he took the question in stride. He chuckled, his laughter echoing in the podcast studio. "Well, I'm more into turning the other cheek," he said, referencing his famous biblical teaching. But then he added, "But let's just say I'd have some divine moves up my sleeve." The implication was clear. He wasn't a fighter, but he wasn't without his resources. The idea of Jesus pulling off divine UFC moves had a certain charm to it, a mix of hilarity and intrigue. This wasn't just a discussion about a UFC match, it was a testament to Jesus' sense of humor. He played along with the absurdity, adding his own twists, making the conversation even more enjoyable. It was an unexpected side of the divine figure, a side that made him even more relatable. The humor of the situation wasn't lost on the listeners. They found themselves laughing, imagining the hypothetical match, appreciating the witty exchange. The conversation, which had started with divine tricks and snacks, had now ventured into the realm of UFC matches. And Jesus, with his divine charm and humor, had made it an unforgettable segment. Who knew a divine figure would be discussing UFC matches and showing off his sense of humor? In the end, it was another testament to the eccentric charm of the Joe Rogan podcast and the divine humor of its most unique guest. As the episode neared its end, Joe and Jesus embarked on a psychedelic journey into the cosmos. Now imagine this, two of the most unconventional minds, one divine and the other human, voyaging through the vast expanses of the universe. The stars, galaxies and nebulae serving as their backdrop, while they delved deep into the mysteries of life, existence and everything in between. Their laughter echoed through the cosmos, a harmonious symphony of humor and wisdom. They pondered over the origin of the universe, the concept of time, and the enigmatic black holes. Joe, with his insatiable curiosity, asked, "So, Jesus, what's your take on the Big Bang? Did you have a front row seat to that spectacle?" Jesus, with a twinkle in his eye, responded, "Well, Joe, let's just say I had a pretty celestial perspective on things, but I must admit the fireworks were quite impressive." As they journeyed through the cosmos, their conversation took a humorous turn. They speculated about alien life forms, with Joe wondering if Jesus had ever turned water into wine on other planets. Jesus, in his characteristic wit, replied, "Joe, even in the cosmos, it's all about the divine touch, remember?" Their laughter and camaraderie infused the cosmos with a unique energy, a blend of divine wisdom and human curiosity. They discussed existential questions, shared anecdotes, and offered insights that only a divine human duo could. It was a cosmic rollercoaster ride, filled with profound insights, belly laughs, and a dash of absurdity. Their journey was not just through the cosmos, but also an exploration of the human spirit, its capacity for humor, curiosity, and the eternal quest for knowledge. It was a testament to the power of conversation, the magic of laughter, and the beauty of shared experiences. And so, Joe and Jesus took podcast listeners on a journey they'd never forget. Their cosmic odyssey was more than just an episode. It was a celestial symphony of humor, wisdom, and camaraderie, a divine journey indeed. As the episode concluded, the internet erupted with reactions. The podcasting world had been turned upside down, and the digital landscape was awash with a flurry of memes, jokes, and awe-inspired speculations. The Joe Rogan and Jesus episode had transcended the realm of the ordinary, catapulting itself into the realm of the legendary. The divine humor and absurdity of the conversation had found its place in the heart of the internet. Memes popped up left and right, depicting Joe Rogan in a halo, Jesus in boxing gloves, and the pair of them journeying into the cosmos. The conversation had become a comedic goldmine, ripe for the picking, and the internet wasted no time in making the most of it. And it wasn't just the humor that caught the internet's attention. The episode had sparked a wildfire of speculations. Was this the beginning of a new era for podcasts? Would we see more divine guests gracing the digital airwaves? The anticipation hung in the air, thick and palpable. The possibilities seemed endless. The episode's legendary status was cemented as it became a hot topic among podcast enthusiasts and casual listeners alike. It was the kind of story that would be told and retold, making its mark on the annals of podcast history. The absurdity, the humor, the depth of the conversation. It was an experience that had touched and entertained people on a global scale. As the dust settled, one thing became abundantly clear. The anticipation for future divine guests was at an all-time high. Who would be the next surprise guest? Could it be Buddha, Gandhi, or perhaps even Zeus? The speculation was rife, the excitement palpable, and so, in the annals of podcast history, the Joe Rogan and Jesus episode became a tale of divine humor and absurdity, leaving listeners eagerly awaiting the next surprise guest. The world of podcasting had been graced by divine intervention, and the aftermath was nothing short of spectacular.